So I recently stumbled into another one of my wonderful, weird, non-place lost memories. The conversation I had with the belly girl, though, I distinctly remember laying in my bed, and I don't think this girl ever came to my house. Maybe she did, but I feel like I'd remember more, but then again, these guys were poisoning me with heavy metals and hitting me with LSD and drugs and shit and hypnotizing me, so maybe I wouldn't remember more. I don't even know if I'm supposed to remember any of this shit, but my memory's always been fucking unique in the grounds that I've had an amazing memory since I was a kid, and that goes all the way into adulthood. I can remember wandering around Disney World as a child. Like, yeah, I don't know. Anyways, yeah. So, we were having a conversation, and she started telling me about basically being an empath. She wasn't using the word empath, but basically telling me that, like, the faith, these people's religion's actually amazing when you get past the murder, the killing, the rape, the incest, the entitlement, and the killing, and the ridiculous rules, and the obviously fake, made-up lie stories you have to accept to be 100% true, even though they're 100% fake. And everything's full of shit, but it's amazing. And I told her, you sound like you have Stockholm Syndrome. But she started talking about why the church members had a problem with me. And altruism is my thing. She said it was my callousness. She said it was because they couldn't get to me on an emotional level, because this is funny because it goes back to my parents trying to emotionally manipulate me, and it didn't work. Spoilers. I didn't give a fuck about my emotions. I used to not, and then I got a destroyed nervous system, and now I can barely function, so now I feel fear for no fucking reason, so that's fucking great. Don't worry, I got enough pills to fucking destroy my liver and solve that fucking problem for me. It's fucking great, but anyways, she went on a thing talking about Ganon and Stu were extremely emotionally reactionary. They're volatile, and they couldn't handle the fact that I didn't give a fuck about their emotions. Because once again, it's coming from a higher power. They're special. Everybody should care only about how I feel. How you feel doesn't matter. And I just started laughing because that's how 2-year-olds think. And when I was talking about that, she literally, remember her telling me, you've got to be the most masculine guy I've ever spoken to. And I was like, you told me that the entire religion's full of masculine guys. Well, they do manly things. And I was like, well, even a child can do manly things. But that's not the measure of a man. Yeah, you can imitate what you think is a man, believe it or not. And she kind of giggled about that. And we had this back and forth as I expressed my interest and disinterest in things. But she kept going on that because I wasn't empathic, because I didn't give a fuck about emotions, whether it be autism or abuse, that this stuff absolutely drove these church leaders insane. Yeah. And they couldn't handle it because everybody's supposed to care about their emotions. And she used this thing as an example, speaking of like racism. She was like, you have this rich guy that owns a bunch of slaves, and he knows when you take his slaves from him, he's going to be poor, but then nobody cares about how he feels. And I said, good, he's an asshole. Nobody's going to care about how you feel once you decide to be a human being and a good person. Maybe people actually fucking like you. You won't have to worry about how you feel. And she was like, wow, that was not where she wanted that conversation to go. And then she was like, you value good people. And I was like, I value them more than any other resource on the planet. And she was like, and you really don't care for garbage. I was like, I really don't care for garbage. What? And she was like, well, how does, we got into talking about the church leaders. This would be before I got the term malignant narcissist. I just thought I had a different word for emotionally stunted. They were like stupid, selfish assholes or something like that is what I used to call them. Like stupid, selfish assholes, because the way they think just causes misery. It makes them miserable, and then they have to make everybody miserable because they're miserable, and it's like they don't understand. It's the way you act is what causes the misery to begin with. Or worse, maybe they do understand it, they just don't fucking care. But, she went on this kind of, explanation, explaining to me that, like, everybody in the church does everything, walks on eggshells in fear of the emotions of the church leader and how he feels. And to me, it's a baby. It's a baby in a crib, and you don't want to wake it, so you walk quietly around the house because you're terrified it's going to get up and start screaming. In this case, this asshole has all the power, so he can do whatever he wants, and nobody's going to whoop his ass, which is probably what all these guys need. But I remember this stupidity about showing them sympathy, showing them empathy. And I just told her, I was like, look, I'm going to level with you. Let's talk about, like, a white supremacist. And she was like, okay, I can understand that. And I was like, he goes, I want to kill black people, and you guys hurt my feelings when you tell me it's not okay to kill black people. So you need to empathize with me and agree with my emotions and then let me murder black people. And I was like, do you get where we're going with this? And she was like, no, I don't get where you're going with this. And I was like, emotional manipulation is fucking stupid, and it's how dumbasses function, okay? It's how retards think. These idiots go, my emotions are the most important on the planet, without giving a fuck about your emotions. Okay? The only thing Stu and Gannon care about is how they feel. And guess what? They would be happy sedated on LSD 24/7. That's why out there in that desert area, their highest area of success is an area where you just lay in the desert and do drugs. Lay in the desert and do drugs. That's the peak. Just like a flop house, a drug house, a crackhead bin, it's no different. It is no different. Outside of the fact that you're using LSD. And these guys are funny as shit because they're basically crippled with their ego. And if you take LSD, according to these videos I watched, it removes your ego. So these guys are crushed by their ego because it's the only thing they have. And I'd imagine there's probably a big relief when you pop LSD and you're suddenly not crushed by your ego anymore. But they're also crushed by the self. And that's what LSD does. It removes both of those things. And then you're free of yourself. Okay? Suddenly you don't care about yourself. Alright? And as me and her spoke about this, basically, I kind of just I began drawing the distinction. As soon as you care about these people's emotions, they immediately are going to go, that means I get my way. I'm right. Because you agreed with my emotions. And then she was like, well, like, no, because you can go, I agree with your emotions and I understand where you're coming from, but you can't just go murder black people. And I told him that's not how they work, because as soon as you tell them you can't murder black people, you hurted my feelings, and now you bad. You bad. My feelings important. You bad. And she was like, oh my God, they're babies. Oh my God, they're babies. And she was, they're literal babies. And I remembered, just that weird conversation, she spoke about how even with these people, the entire thing is from an authoritative point of power, and the core thing, even with their emotions, is not to show empathy, it is not to show sympathy, or even they care. They want you to care about how they feel, but they don't want you to care about how you feel. Their shit's way more important because they're somehow a superior being, even though they fuck up all the fucking time. And I mean all the fucking time. I don't bother with any of that shit. I don't buy into any of the superiorness of it, okay? Stu demonstrated gross incompetence in everything he did. Ganon demonstrated gross incompetence in everything he did, okay? I don't really give a shit about that. Like, Ganon was perverse because we had this ugly Goron manager, and she was in the office literally talking to him like a baby, telling him she was going to be there for him and take care of him and everything was going to be okay. And I was like, man, tell this guy to suck his thumb and you pick his ass up with your Goron self and roll him the fuck home to your fucking cave in the wall, you fucking creepy bitch. Like, yeah. I often feel a deep sense of sadness, so I think I did have some type of connection to this girl, but I don't... The issue is, I guess I'm one of those people, it was one of the things I read, it said, like, when you do LSD, some people remember their trip, some people don't, so, like, why would you do a drug if you don't remember? And I start to think that this girl's mistake was dosing me with the LSD to have sex with me. Yeah, because I think I would have been more functional and able to remember more. But, yeah, just that. And this kind of feeds into this stupid shit later, just because I got time for this. This shit with Nietzsche later, the guys at the church kept going on about Nietzsche, and Nietzsche, dude, it's nihilism. It's doublespeak nihilism for dummies. That's what Nietzsche is, because he goes on about how nihilists have no morals, and then he literally says you need the morals are a cage that keep you from seeing your higher self. So according to Nietzsche, you throw out your morals, which means you throw out your goodness, and then you just start killing and murdering, cheating, lying, stealing, and doing all the evil shit, and then you're your highest self, the most evil piece of shit on the planet. And then he's like, reality's subjective, so even though you're doing all the evil shit, well, you can write reality and say, you're the victim, and it's okay for you to do all the bad stuff because you're the victim. Which makes sense, because all these guys do the bad thing and then scream, I'm the victim. And then they say, you're the evil person for calling them out because morals are pointless. There's no reason for morals. Those are stupid. And the only thing I think about is this shit when I was like talking to Stu and I was like, it's the only reason I haven't bashed your head in with a brick. And I remember him going, huh. Like, you should thank morals, Stu. It's the reason you're not dead. Same thing with Ganon. You should be like, I think good people are good because they don't murder my ass for being a piece of shit. Like, yeah, once again, these idiots think they get planets. It's not about getting into heaven. It's about getting something they're never going to get. You never heard a bigger ploy from the devil outside, I'll give you your own planet, brother. Yeah. As he drinks the marmalade and has like the red horns on the fucking dirt bike. Like, and I could see where Nietzsche would appeal to emotionally stunted people because that shit in the emotionally stunted realities as it feels, so reality is subjective to an emotionally stunted person. So Nietzsche's philosophies about being amoral, violent, and stupid, and then saying, like, it's all subjective, so therefore I'm probably the good guy, maybe, but not really, a little bit. And you're like, is this guy moderately retarded? I don't know. I guess going back to the belly girl, it was a weird thing, just randomly laying on my bed, I just fucking remembered, but I've been remembering a lot of weird, random things that I've been very confused about exactly the timeline of events. Like, I remember this other girl that may have been related to my Goron manager, also doing some of the weird shit that the belly girl could do, and this chick talking to me, I don't know who she was now. I mean, I refuse to believe she was beautiful because my manager looked like a fucking Goron. I'd assume this creature probably looked like a Goron, but I can tell somebody also fucked with my mind, and I'm assuming it was the blue-eyed guy. So, I probably have a lot of questions for him. I bet he's not gonna fucking answer. They're gonna lie, because they say at the church, we never lie, but then we lie all the time. Fucking Blondie, and I'll let you out of your contract. Complete fucking lie. Like... Never trust these people. I know some of you guys know what church I'm talking about. Never trust these people. They're just gonna lie. Okay? They're gonna rig the game and lie. The shit with Blondie and bringing women into Papa John's and then trying to set me up with the ugly one by fucking with my mind. And then I didn't edit no ugly wife, so he fucked up. Because that's his nature, that is his state of being, that is who he is. He has all these abilities and skills, and you can learn abilities and skills. You can learn this hypno stuff. I've almost arrived at a point that I actually think I understand exactly how it works. Almost. And I might do a video on that. Just so everybody can learn how it works, because I think it would be funny if another counter-religion started up and they did the same thing. I couldn't imagine. I see like Stu, like, we're so smart, we're so... And then he just gets dosed with the LSD, and instead of hypnotizing him, they hypnotize his ego into thinking that he's like a transgender, like, fag boy, and then Stu's like, oh no, my evil guy is turned gay! Dude, that would be funny as shit. And then all of a sudden, all the church leaders just start acting weird because they figured out they could hypnotize their egos and alter their egos. So they're like, Gannon's like, I need to turn on the other guy to do this task I can't do. Quick, other me! And then he switches to his other identity, but somebody's hypnotized it into thinking it's like one of those annoying little dogs. He just gets down. Gannon, what are you doing? Gannon, you're supposed to kill that guy. Oh no, they hypnotized his ego! Game over! They figured out that we're not special! This is really stupid! And then it just gets really bad from there on out. Just all these guys just get dosed with the tetraled LSD spray. Like, I remember my cuddle buddy literally having a spray in her purse and telling me it's not what I thought it was. And the way she made that was just by dropping the LSD and the tetraled in the water and then shaking it up in a spray bottle. And if that's the actual way of doing that, then I just told you guys how to do it, so enjoy that. I don't know, practice with your friends. You have some guy you don't like and you really want to fuck up his brain and make him less agreeable, antisocial, and damn near psychopathic by spraying him in the face with tetraled. Whatever, dude. These guys did it. Once you figure it out, just remember you can't hypnotize them, but you can hypnotize their ego. Okay. And once you figure that out, trust me, it'd be funny as shit. I could totally do, like I said, I totally picture fucking the church leaders. I gotta switch to my other identity. And it just lays down on the floor. What are you doing? I'm a plank. I'm a plank, brother. What? Who did this? Why? You just like take that, moron. Oh, that would be great. The fantasy worlds. I've done that since I was a kid. It's a form of it's a defense mechanism. Able to withdraw from reality and just how shitty it is. Yeah. I don't know. I kind of wish I had more than just memories of the belly girl, but that's all I got. I'm pretty sure somebody that watches these videos actually knows this woman. Yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed this rant.